Are you going to be that good and faithful servant? If in my entire venture over my entire life, I am only able to love and reach 5 people in my entire lifetime, then I am going to do that with all of my heart. And some of you have buried your life. We're going to talk about the parable of the talents, a story that Jesus shares, which is one of many where he starts it off saying the kingdom of heaven is like. It's important for us to understand what the kingdom of heaven is like if we want to go there. And so Jesus tells a story about a master who's going away to a really far land. This parable is found in Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 and onward from there. So this master is going to go to a faraway place. He calls in his servants and he gives to each one of them a measure of talents. So a talent, first of all, it's like a weight of silver or gold, okay? Now a silver talent would have roughly been enough to provide a man, an average wage worker, for about 16 years of wages. That's a lot of money. Now, if that was made out of gold, if it was a golden talent, that's probably the equivalent of nearly a lifetime's worth of wages for one man. So with these 3 servants, this master gives one of them 5 talents, he gives the next one 2, and to the third, he gives 1. And it says that he gives them according to their ability. So he recognizes that his servants are not all on the same level when it comes to getting things done. The master right away goes off to a really far away place and just leaves the servants with these talents. So let's hold off right there and let's talk about who each of these people are. The master represents Jesus, who has gone away to a faraway place to do some business. The servants are us. Now, which of the 3 servants you are, I can't answer that question. You may not even be able to answer that question. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But as we're going through this, consider this perspective. You're one of the servants, and Jesus is the master. So while the master is gone, the servant who was given 5 talents takes it, he invests it, he starts businesses, he does whatever he knows how to do, and he increases. He literally doubles the amount back. So now he has a total of 10 talents. The same thing happens to the servant who has 2. He invests, he does whatever it is that he knows how to do, and he ends up getting an additional 2 more talents, so now he has a total of 4. But the servant who only has 1 talent, he's scared because he knows that his master is a very shrewd businessman. It says, Jesus says in the story that the master collects where he has not sown. He reaps where he did not plant. And so because the servant fears his master, he takes his talent and he buries it in the ground in order to keep it safe. After a long time, Jesus says, the master finally returns and the servants come to bring him back what's his. The first servant says, "Look here, master, I took what you gave me and I doubled it. I turned it from 5 into 10. And the master says to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You will be made ruler of many things." Same thing happens with the second servant. He says, "Master, I took the 2 talents that you gave me and I have turned it into 4. Well done, good and faithful servant. You will be made ruler of much." But the third servant comes along and he explains to the master how he was scared, how he was afraid. And so he buried it and he kept it safe. And it's almost like he's presenting this like, "Here, I protected what you gave me. I didn't let anything bad happen to it." He's presenting it like a good thing. But the whole gist behind this story is that the servants were meant to conduct business in the same manner that the master normally would if he had stayed home. So the master, being an excellent businessman, very shrewd and making all kinds of money all the time, the servants were meant to carry on in that same way. The master never would have just buried it. And he tells them that. He says, "You wicked and slothful or lazy servant. You knew that I was such a businessman, and yet you basically," he says, essentially, "you squandered my money by burying it in the ground. If nothing else, you should have at least dropped it in the bank so that when I came back, I could have at least had interest on what I gave you. And then Jesus says that they take the talent from him and they give it to the one who has 10. Because he was faithful what he was given, he's going to be given more. And then it says, throw this wicked servant out. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, is what he says. So what is expected of us in this world? What does God want from me, right? What is my life's purpose? What is my calling? What is my destiny? These are the questions that many people have, most people have. The very simple summary of this story is that the servants were meant to carry on the business the same way the master would have if he was there, okay? What that means for us is we are meant to carry on the business of our Father, of God, of Jesus, the same way that Jesus, when he was physically alive on earth, conducted his business, is the way that we are to conduct ourselves today in his absence. But in the Bible, the master delivered to each of the servants a whole bunch of money. Now, I definitely haven't gotten a whole bunch of money just handed to me from God. It didn't just come floating down and drop into my lap. What has God given me? What has God given you? He has given you a life. Remember, a talent of gold would have quite possibly supplied a man for the rest of his life. He was essentially given a life. In the same sense, you have been given a life. You have been given your life here on earth to be able to conduct and carry out the will of God. Or more specifically, to live the way that Jesus lived. But we need to know exactly how did Jesus live? What is it exactly that Jesus expects from us? In Matthew 28, 18 to 20, we have what's called the Great Commission. This is Jesus with his disciples. He's already died. He's resurrected. He walked around and freaked a bunch of people out. And now he's getting ready to ascend back up into heaven. And he gives them this literally final order, this final decree, this final instruction before he floats up into heaven. He says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go. So he's saying, I'm in charge. And because I'm in charge, this is what I'm telling you to do. Make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. This is literally Jesus' expectation of what we are to do with our life. This is the final thing that he said. And we can get into all the things that this verse means on another day because there's so much to it. But for the purposes of today, I want to look at the fact that he said, teach them to obey all of my commandments. Notice he said my commandments. He didn't say the Bible's commandments. He didn't say the commandments of Moses. He didn't say the commandments of the Torah. He said my commandments. Well, what are Jesus's commandments? I know about the 10 commandments. I know about the Mosaic laws. I know about the Torah. I know about all of these things, but I don't know about Jesus's commandments. Well, Jesus only had 2. There's only one place where he issues something that he himself calls a commandment worth following. Now, I know some of you are going to have a hard time with this, but I want to look at Romans chapter 2, verse 14 and 15. It says, for when the Gentiles, now these are anybody who is not Hebrew, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law. These, having not the law, are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness. Okay, that's kind of a mouthful. But what it's saying is that the Gentiles who did not have the law, when they follow the law according to the convictions of their heart, it becomes a law to themselves. Let's go to the drawing board real quick. In the beginning, God created Adam and he created Eve, right? We'll give Eve a dress. She likes wearing her dress. Now they had a couple of kids, and those kids had kids, and those kids had kids, and essentially it just keeps on going all the way down the line until this guy named Abraham was born. Now, after Abraham, we have a division. Obviously, there was other people all along here, okay? So we have all kinds of people that don't come from underneath Abraham. And then we have a couple of people who came under Abraham but are separate from what we call Israel. It's not important to understand in total what I'm talking about, just kind of get the overall picture. Eventually, after Abraham, comes another dude named Moses. All right, this is Moses. M for Moses. So, Moses is the one who brought in the 10 Commandments. From Adam and Eve all the way down to Moses is approximately 2,500 years. That's a lot of time. That's a whole lot of people. In that time frame, between Moses and Adam and Eve, there was no law. The 10 Commandments did not exist for all of these people. This is countless people. And then, aside from that, it does not include all of these people over here. It was not delivered to them. It was not given to them. And for all of these people, it just straight up didn't exist. Does that mean that they didn't have the 10 Commandments in order to follow, in order to go to heaven? No. That's what this verse in Romans chapter 2 is talking about. That when you live according to the conviction of your heart, which is following the laws in similarity, in heart, in conscience, the law, you become the law yourself. But the purpose was never the law. So that brings us back to the point of Jesus's commands. Because Jesus very clearly specified how it is that we're supposed to live, the commandments that we're called to live by. Mark chapter 12, verses 29 to 31, he says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Now that's saying something that we don't have time to get into today. But if you want to go down a rabbit hole in the Bible, look at the origins of that verse and what it actually means. "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." This is the first commandment. And the second, like it, is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. These are the only two things in the Bible, anywhere that we have recorded, where Jesus says, this is the command that you should follow. Now, he doesn't tell us to not follow other things, and he gives us plenty of instruction all over the place. But the only place he labels it a command is right here. And the command is to love God, love people. Let me put it into a slightly different perspective for you. On October 7th, 2005, I married my wife, Tanya Marie. We stood up, we did the whole ceremony, we got in front of our friends and family before God. There was a pastor there. We said our vows. I promised that I would follow her wherever she would go, that I would stay where she stayed, that I would be with her in sickness and in health, for rich or for poor. You know how it goes, right? She said all the same things back to me. Those are our vows. Nowhere in my vows did I promise never to punch her in the face. Did not happen. Which means, according to the law, according to the rules that we established our relationship upon, I should technically be allowed to punch my wife in the face. Now, is that acceptable? Obviously not. Why not, though? Well, because what I did promise her was that I would love her. And in loving her, love takes into consideration not hurting her. Because there's no way that I can sit there and say, I promise I won't do this. I promise I won't call you fat. I won't say those pants look bad on you. I won't bring you pink flowers because you don't like pink. I would be there forever. And that's what started happening in the Mosaic Law. They started looking at what is any and every single way that we could possibly offend God or offend our fellow man. And that is the wrong path to go down in regards to the commands and honoring God. Because the purpose and intent behind it is that if I am only ever thinking about loving my wife, then I will never hurt my wife. If I am only ever thinking about how I love God and love my neighbor, my coworker, the freaking guy across the street that drives me nuts, if I'm only ever thinking about how much I love them, I will never offend them. The law then is in effect written on my heart through my conscience. Your relationship with God, with Jesus, is meant to be driven out of love, not by rules. So let's get back to our parable now. That was a whole lot of sidetracking in order to set up a true understanding of what it is that Jesus wants from us. You've been given a life, and it's been given to you in a certain measure. Remember, it says, Jesus said in the parable, he said that the master gave according to their abilities. One got 5 because he could handle 5. The one that got 2 could handle 2. He couldn't handle 5, but he was better than 1. He could do more than 1. But I want you to understand is that what they were individually capable of doing had literally nothing to do with the other person. It's incomparable. It is not that the one who got 2 was deficient. It's that was his ability level, and the master recognized that. He is not being compared to the one who had 5. He was not expected to deliver 5. As a matter of fact, if the one who was given 5 had only returned an additional 2, he probably would have been rebuked for being lazy because he's capable of doing more. Each of the servants was given their talents, but they had the free will to exercise their judgment and decision on how to invest it, on how to make more, or what to do with it, if anything at all. And it's the same with your life. You have been given a measure of abilities, whether it's talents, skills, influence, relationships, whatever it is in your life that you have that literally is who you are, that is a measure of what God has given you to be able to exercise your own free will and judgment on how to carry out the love of Jesus Christ in this world. Or you can be like the servant who had 1 talent and you can squander it. You can just sit there and guard it and protect it out of fear. And many Christians are like that. They're so afraid of hell. They're so afraid of disappointing God. They're so afraid of doing something wrong that they lock themselves away. Some people literally isolate themselves from the rest of the world. And that is not faithfulness. That is squandering. I know it's easy to feel inadequate when you look at what other people are capable of doing. I've been there myself. But trust me, it's not comparable. God is not comparing you. It says in the Bible that God is no respecter of persons. That means he does not differentiate between us. Think about it this way. If you have a fish and you have a monkey, and you're trying to determine which one is better overall, and so you hold this test to see which one can climb a tree better. Obviously, the monkey can climb the tree great. The fish dies trying to even get to the tree. Does this make a fish inadequate and useless? No. The fish's usefulness is in the river. Measure the monkey according to its ability to stay underwater like a fish does, and it'll drown and die and look useful against what the fish is capable of doing. You guys, this is your life. And what you have been given cannot be compared to what other people have been given. You are uniquely created to be able to do whatever it is that you are designed to do. But let me tell you this, the measure that you have been given, you need to be faithful to. I believe many people in the world, most people in the world are probably 1 talent people, myself included. We are not capable of accomplishing a whole lot. We may not reach very many people in our lifetime. There's some out there that are winning thousands every month. They're sharing their love to millions. They're feeding countless multitudes. They're clothing, they're housing, they're doing all of the things. And that's great. That's amazing. I'm thankful for them. I can't do that. I'm not that effective. I don't know how to be. This YouTube channel is my attempt to be faithful to the calling that God has put on my life. And if in my entire venture over my entire life, I am only able to love and reach 5 people in my entire lifetime, then I am going to do that with all of my heart. With everything that I have, I'm going to commit to that call. I am going to commit to being faithful to that. And God does not expect anything more. Your feelings of inadequacy come out of a heart of comparison, and it should not be that way. The servant who only had 1 talent, he squandered it. He buried it. And some of you have buried your life. Some of you have closed yourself off. You're so afraid of getting hurt. You guys, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. If you sincerely try to help other people, to love other people, to share with other people, you'll get hurt. You will. There's no avoiding it. It's going to happen. Just like the servant who had 5 talents and he got an additional 5. Do you think he didn't lose money along the way? He probably did. He probably took some losses along the way. Jesus has gone away to a faraway place and for a long time. Just as a side note, I personally think he's coming back soon. I think it's going to be really soon. How is he going to find you? Are you going to be that good and faithful servant? Now, if you listen to my discussion on the prodigal son, that word good and faithful servant should ring true to what we talked about there. If you haven't seen that, go watch that video. But we're called to be good and faithful servants and carry on in the same light as what Jesus would if he was still here. If we do this, when we stand before God, you're going to hear that same thing as what Jesus said to the others. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Come in, and you're going to be made ruler of much. One thing, you guys, in trying to reach the world around you, stop trying to get results. Stop trying to get people saved. Just stop. Just stop. Literally stop. Don't do that. It's probably the worst thing you can do. What you need to do is love people. You need to share your love and share your light with them. Jesus did not go around preaching about himself. He didn't. People followed him everywhere. Why? Because he loved them. Because they felt his love. Because he did things for them. Because he fed them. Because he healed them. Physically and spiritually, emotionally, all of the things. There's a saying that goes, marry the process, divorce the results. You need to marry the process of loving and sharing your life with people and divorce the results of whether or not they're going to, quote, get saved. Just love people. Be there for them. Thank you so much for sitting here with me today. I hope that you've gotten something out of this, and I hope that I've inspired you to share your own love and light in the world, to be faithful with what it is that God has already given you in your life. I pray the love and the light of our one infinite Creator will be with you always.